I'm going to dive right into it because I need to get this off my chest. My name's Mark, and I'm a 35-year-old guy who thought he had a good marriage with my wife, Jenna. We've been married for 7 years and have 2 kids, aged 5 and 3. Sure, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always believed that we were solid. Lately, though, something felt off, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was pulling away. It started with the little things. Jenna seemed more preoccupied with her phone than usual. She used to share every funny meme or cute video with me, but now she'd just scroll endlessly, her face lit by that glow, a little smirk dancing on her lips. When I tried to engage her, she would roll her eyes. "I'm just tired, Mark. Can't a girl have some downtime?" My gut told me there was more to it. Then there was that night she went out for drinks with her colleagues. She came home a little too late and a little too disheveled. I thought maybe she was just having fun blowing off steam, but there was something nagging at me. I brushed it off until I started to notice the lipstick stains on her clothes. Not just any lipstick, it was a bold red shade that I knew she didn't own, the shade of her coworkers' posts. I could feel the weight of suspicion building inside me, but I didn't want to believe it. Things spiraled from there. One evening, while getting ready to cook dinner, I found a small, crumpled piece of paper in the pocket of her jacket hanging by the door. I almost tossed it in the trash until I noticed Jenna's name scrawled across the top. It was a note from her coworker, Jake, asking her to meet him at a bar downtown after work. I felt my stomach drop. Couldn't be real, right? It had to be some harmless work fling, a joke, or a misunderstanding. But the lipstick on her ear screamed another story when I confronted her about it. I had to know. As soon as she walked in that night, still buzzing from dinner with the girls, I laid it all out. "Jenna, you got lipstick on your ear, not mine, and this note says you're meeting." "Jake, what the hell is going on?" Her reaction was nothing short of infuriating. Instead of confessing, she shot back with that condescending tone. "Oh, please, it's just a work event and the lipstick. I must have brushed against someone. You're being ridiculous." She downplayed everything, and I could feel my anger boiling over. I wanted her to see the betrayal in my eyes, the hurt trickling down my veins. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about an affair. It was about the lies. I wanted her to feel the weight of every word she spewed. I demanded she stop with the excuses and the drama. I told her I deserved better than this half-hearted attempt at denial. But all she did was flip her hair and dismiss me, claiming I was being paranoid. The emotional toll of that confrontation was overwhelming. I swung from disbelief to rage and back to confusion. Was I really losing the love of my life to some guy at her work? It felt surreal, like a punch to the gut that knocked the wind out of me. I spent the rest of the night packing around, grappling with feelings I couldn't even put into words. As the days went by, I tried to keep a brave face for the kids, but inside I was a mess. I felt betrayed, hurt, and utterly lost. I had trusted Jenna with my heart, and here she was, shattering it into pieces. The silence between us grew deafening, filled with unresolved tension and unspoken accusations. I knew I had to make a decision about what to do next. I needed to figure out if this was worth fighting for, or if it was time to pack my bags and find a new route. The thought of separation was terrifying, yet staying felt like accepting that I had been played for a fool. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had to change, but I was unsure how. As I sat there, contemplating my next move, I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about our kids, our family, and what kind of example I wanted to set for them on love and trust. I had to think long and hard about how to navigate this storm that was rapidly approaching. This whole experience was teaching me something important about relationships. Sometimes, love isn't enough to hold it all together. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, trying desperately to figure out which way to go. As the days turned into weeks, a strange routine settled over our household. Jenna continued her charade, acting like everything was normal while I wore the mask of a supportive husband. I did my best to be present for our kids, to tuck them in at night and read them stories, all while my heart felt like it was slowly being crushed under the weight of betrayal. Each laugh and giggle rang hollow in my ears. It's incredible how quickly something can feel shattered and unfixable. Every time Jenna walked into the room, I had to fight the urge to scrutinize her every action. I noticed the slight shifts in her demeanor, a little too much laughter when she was on her phone, the way her eyes sparkled when she mentioned Jake. It was like watching a movie I didn't want to see, but I was stuck in the front row, unable to look away. One day, I decided enough was enough. I needed to know the truth. I started keeping track of her schedule, nodding every time she mentioned working late or going out with friends. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being played like a pawn in a game I wasn't even part of. That afternoon, I enlisted the help of a friend named Tom who worked in security. I reluctantly explained my situation to him over a beer at our favorite bar. Tom raised an eyebrow. "You want me to follow your wife? Man, that's some heavy stuff." I nodded, feeling the weight of shame wash over me. I had never imagined myself in this position, but I needed answers. "Just find out what she's really doing," I said. "I need to know if I'm right about Jake or if I'm just losing my mind." A few days later, Tom called me. "I've got some information. You need to sit down." My heart raced. "I saw her at that bar downtown you mentioned. She was there with Jake. They looked pretty cozy." The world around me blurred as I processed his words. I could feel my heart thudding painfully in my chest. I couldn't believe I was hearing this. The anger surged through me like a tidal wave, crashing against the walls I had built up to protect myself. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to hear them. I simply thanked Tom and hung up, needing to collect my thoughts. That evening, Jenna walked in with a smile plastered on her face, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I watched her as she flitted around the kitchen, preparing dinner, her laughter bright and cheery. I wondered how she could act like everything was fine when I was falling apart inside. It took everything in me to keep my composure. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, teetering and waiting for the inevitable plunge. Finally, I could no longer hold back the torrent of emotions. "Jenna, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but low. The smile faded from her face as she turned to regard me. "What's wrong?" she asked, feigning innocence. "I spoke with Tom," I said, my heart racing. "He saw you with Jake. You can't keep lying to me." The atmosphere crackled with tension. I could see her searching for words, her expression shifting from surprise to irritation. "Mark, this is ridiculous," she snapped, crossing her arms. "Tom is just being a jealous friend. You're always looking for something to be upset about." I couldn't believe the audacity. "I'm looking for the truth, Jenna. You're the one who's been lying to me." Her eyes narrowed. "You're acting like a lunatic. I told you I'm busy with work. I don't have to explain myself to you." That phrase hit me like a slap in the face. It was clear she had no intention of admitting anything. I felt the heat rising in my face, anger mixing with the heartbreak. "No, you don't have to explain yourself, but you do owe me the truth. I trusted you." She threw her hands up in frustration. "You're being paranoid, Mark. This is all in your head." I could feel the walls closing in around me. I wanted to scream, to shake her until she understood the gravity of what was happening. "What's it going to take for you to be honest with me? Do I need to show you the evidence, the lipstick, the notes, the late nights?" For a moment it looked like I had struck a nerve. Her face turned pale as she realized I wasn't going to back down, but she quickly regained her composure, flipping her hair and rolling her eyes. "Fine, if you want to believe I'm cheating, go ahead. It's easier than actually dealing with your accusations." It was infuriating. The tears were hot in my eyes, but I fought them back. I wasn't going to let her see me break down. "This isn't just on me, Jenna. You need to realize that your actions have consequences. You can't just pretend everything is okay when it's not." She scoffed. "You're overreacting. I'm tired of this. If you want to play the blame game, go ahead, but I'm done with this conversation." With that, she stormed out, leaving me standing there, feeling like I just lost the battle. It was clear that I was fighting a losing battle against someone who refused to face the truth. The emotional impact of that confrontation was like a punch in the gut. I felt drained, exhausted from the constant back and forth. I needed to figure out what my next steps were. Did I confront her again? Did I let her keep living in this fantasy world? I was tired, tired of the lies, tired of the betrayal, and tired of feeling like I was in a relationship built on deceit. I needed to find a way to regain control of my life, but how? It was time to make a decision about the future of my marriage. I just didn't know where to start. After that explosive confrontation, I decided to take a step back and figure out my next move. I felt like I was trying to fit together pieces of a puzzle that had been scattered all over the floor. I didn't want to kick down the door to my own home and create even more chaos, especially with the kids around. But there was only so much I could take before I reached my breaking point. I started to research my options. I read articles about infidelity, trying to understand why people cheat and how to navigate the aftermath. It was a painful process, but I felt like I needed to arm myself with knowledge. I spent hours watching videos, reading advice columns, and digging into forums filled with stories of betrayal. It was a rabbit hole that only deepened my sense of despair. One night, as I was browsing through a relationship advice forum, I came across a post that struck a chord. Someone wrote about the importance of collecting evidence before confronting a spouse, making sure they had a solid foundation to stand on. That resonated with me. I realized that if I wanted to confront Jenna again, I needed to have more than just feelings and suspicions. I needed proof. So I made a decision. I would gather evidence, but I had to do it discreetly. I set up a plan to track her movements over the next few weeks. I borrowed an old camera from Tom, one that he used for security purposes, and started to observe her. It felt invasive, like I was crossing a line I could never uncross, but I also felt like I had no choice. I needed to protect myself and my kids. I started keeping notes on her schedule, timing when she left for work and when she returned. I began to notice patterns. Her late nights were usually accompanied by a series of texts from someone named Jake. It made my stomach turn. I could feel the anger boiling inside me, but I also felt the need to remain calm and collected. I wasn't just doing this for me. I was doing it for my family. One evening, while waiting for her to come home, I had my camera set up near the front door. I made sure the angle was just right to catch her as she walked in. I felt like a detective in a cheap thriller, but it was the only way I could think of to establish the truth. When she finally arrived, she had that same bright smile and confident stride, completely unaware of my surveillance. A few nights later, I got my first real break. Jenna had gone out again, claiming she was meeting some friends for dinner. I kept my camera rolling when I heard the front door open at around midnight, followed by laughter. My heart raced as I peered through the window. There was Jake, leaning casually against the doorframe, a smug smile plastered on his face. They were close, way too close for comfort. The air felt thick as I watched them. They were holding hands when she led him inside. The rage bubbled up in my chest, and I felt the urge to burst through the door and confront them right then and there. But I held back. I needed to keep my cool. This was about gathering evidence, not impulsive actions. I recorded their laughter and whispered conversations, my heart pounding in my ears as I fought the urge to scream. After what felt like an eternity, they finally settled on the couch, and I could see her leaning into him, her hand on his thigh. I wanted to turn off the camera, to pull the blanket over my head and pretend it wasn't happening, but I stayed focused. I needed to capture this moment, this undeniable proof of her betrayal. It was torturous, watching the love of my life act like I didn't exist, like I was a ghost haunting her. When they kissed, I felt my heart shatter all over again. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, and I couldn't look away. I recorded everything, holding on to the hope that I could use this evidence to confront her with the truth. As they wrapped up their evening and he left, I felt a mix of devastation and determination. I had what I needed now, something tangible to confront her with. I called Tom and told him about what I had seen. "Mark, you need to be careful," he warned. "Confronting her with evidence can lead to a lot of emotional fallout. Are you sure you're ready?" I didn't have a clear answer. I was scared, yes, but I was more scared of living in this nightmare without taking action. "I have to do it, Tom. I can't live in this limbo anymore." When Jenna came home the next evening, she was chipper, talking a mile a minute about her amazing night out with friends. I could feel the anger gnawing at me, but I kept my face neutral. I had a plan and I was going to execute it. "Jenna, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady. I could see her smile falter slightly, which was a good sign. She knew I wasn't the type to initiate serious conversations lightly. "What is it now?" she replied, crossing her arms defensively. I took a deep breath, pulling out the camera and setting it on the table between us. I have proof. I know what you've been doing, and I'm not going to let this slide. The look on her face was priceless, shock, anger, and confusion all mixed into one. What do you mean? What's that supposed to be? I pressed play and we both watched the recording. Her face went from shock to horror as she realized I had caught her red-handed. I could almost hear her thoughts racing. How could she spin this? How could she manipulate the situation to her advantage? When the video ended, the silence in the room was palpable. I was ready for her to explode, to throw accusations back at me. But instead she sat there, stunned, her mouth agape, struggling to find words. This was it. The moment I had waited for. It was time for her to face the consequences of her actions. Jenna, do you really want to pretend like this didn't happen? Do you really want to deny what you've done? I asked, my tone calm but firm. The emotional weight of the moment settled over us like a heavy fog. I could see the wheels turning in her head as she tried to figure out a way to get out of this mess, but I was done playing games. It was time for her to face the music. The silence in the room was thick and suffocating. Jenna finally found her voice, but it wasn't the one I expected. "Mark, you don't understand," she blurted out, her eyes wide with panic. That wasn't what it looked like. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "What do you mean it's not what it looked like? I just watched you kiss him. You were all over him, Jenna. How can you even try to deny it?" She ran her hands through her hair, clearly flustered. "Okay, yes, maybe it looked bad, but you have to believe me. We were just talking. It was harmless." "Harmless?" I echoed incredulously. "You call that harmless? You're meeting him in secret, sneaking around, and I'm supposed to believe this is just talking. This is a betrayal of everything we built together." The anger surged through me again, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I had given her the benefit of the doubt for too long, hopping against hope that my suspicions were unfounded. But now, standing there with undeniable proof, I felt a strange mix of empowerment and devastation. I had taken control of the situation, yet it felt like I was losing everything I held dear. Jenna's defensive posture softened slightly as she looked at me, her expression shifting from panic to desperation. "Mark, please, I know I messed up. I was feeling neglected, you know that. You've been so focused on work and the kids that I felt alone. Jake was just someone who listened to me." "Listening?" I scoffed. "That's your excuse. You turned to another man instead of talking to me about how you were feeling. You couldn't come to me and voice your concerns. You chose to cheat instead." The words hung heavy in the air, and I could see the guilt flicker across her face. "I didn't choose to cheat, it just happened. I didn't mean for it to go that far." "Then what was going through your mind when you were kissing him? Did you think about me? Did you think about our kids?" My voice was rising, and I couldn't rein it in. "You shattered our family over a fling, Jenna. This isn't just about you anymore." Tears filled her eyes, and she looked genuinely remorseful. I know. I didn't think it would get this far. I was just feeling lost, and Jake made me feel special again. I thought I could get away with it and still come back to you." The betrayal cut deeper than I ever imagined possible. I felt my emotions spiraling from anger to sadness. "You thought you could just have your cake and eat it too. You thought you could juggle both sides and I wouldn't notice." "I didn't think it was serious," she cried. "It was just a few dates, Mark. I swear I didn't want to hurt you." "Then why didn't you just break it off before it escalated? You chose to lie and deceive me instead." She hung her head in shame, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy. She was a broken version of the woman I once knew. "I don't know. I guess I thought I could fix it on my own, but I see now that I was wrong." "Wrong doesn't even cover it, Jenna," I said flatly. "You've taken everything we had and thrown it away for a chance at something fleeting. You've made it clear that I'm not the one you want." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with desperation. "I love you, Mark. I do. I messed up. Please, can't we work through this?" I was torn. Part of me wanted to hold her and tell her everything would be okay. But the other part was screaming at me to protect myself and our kids from the pain she had inflicted. I could feel my heart breaking, but I had to think rationally. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the tempest inside me. "Jenna, this isn't about love right now. It's about trust. You've shattered that trust, and I don't know if it can be fixed. I need time to think." Her face fell, and I could see the fear creeping in. "What do you mean? Are you saying you want a divorce?" "I don't know," I admitted, my voice heavier than I anticipated. "I don't know what I want right now. I just need space to Figure this out. The silence lingered, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. Jenna started to cry, the sobs racking her body as she realized the gravity of what she had done. "Mark, please don't leave me. I can fix this, I promise. Just give me a chance." I wanted to reach for her, to comfort her, to tell her that everything would be okay, but I knew I couldn't. I had to stand my ground, even if it felt like my entire world was crumbling around me. "Jenna, I can't right now. I need to think about what's best for me and the kids. I can't keep pretending that everything is fine when it's not." With that, I walked away, leaving her in the living room, sobbing into her hands. It felt like a scene straight out of a movie, the kind of emotional climax that always left me feeling hollow. I spent the next few days in a haze, going through the motions of parenting while my mind raced with thoughts of what had just transpired. I felt like I was walking a tightrope, trying to balance the shards of my broken marriage while keeping our kids shielded from the chaos. I knew I had to make a decision soon, but the future felt overwhelmingly uncertain. I couldn't shake the questions swirling in my mind. Was it possible to rebuild the trust we lost? Could I find it in my heart to forgive her? Or was I simply prolonging the inevitable? As I wrestled with these thoughts, I realized that I had to prioritize my own well-being and, more importantly, the well-being of our children. They deserved a stable environment, whether that meant fixing this marriage or moving on altogether. The emotional roller coaster had taken its toll, and I knew I had to find a resolution. I just needed to take a moment to breathe, to reflect, and to figure out what I truly wanted moving forward. It was time for me to reclaim my life and my happiness, whatever that might look like. Over the next week, I kept my distance from Jenna while navigating the tumultuous waters of my emotions. I buried myself in work, taking long shifts and staying late to avoid coming home to the tension that hung in the air like a dense fog. Conversations were strained and awkward, and it felt like we were two strangers living under the same roof. I tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy for our kids, but the facade was crumbling. One afternoon, while I was sitting in my car during my lunch break, I received a text from Jenna. "Can we talk? I need to explain some things." My heart raced at the thought of facing her again, of diving back into that emotional abyss. But I knew I had to confront this head-on. There was no escaping the truth. I agreed to meet her at a local coffee shop, the same one where we used to enjoy lazy weekend mornings together. Walking in felt surreal, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the memories of happier times. I took a deep breath as I spotted Jenna, nervously tapping her fingers on the table, her expression a mix of hope and anxiety. "Thanks for coming," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been doing a lot of thinking." I nodded, trying to keep my expression neutral. "Let's hear it." "I realize my actions hurt you deeply, and I'm sorry," she began, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "What I did was inexcusable, and I take full responsibility. I should have come to you instead of seeking validation elsewhere." I wanted to believe her, to feel that flicker of hope that maybe we could reconcile, but the scars from her betrayal ran too deep. "You say that now, but how do I know this isn't just another excuse? You got caught, Jenna. You're only saying this because you're scared of losing me." She looked pained, her hands trembling. "I know I've destroyed your trust and I can't undo what happened, but I promise I'll do everything to earn it back. I love you, Mark. I don't want to lose my family over a mistake." "Is that what this was to you, just a mistake?" I pressed, my voice rising. "You made a choice, Jenna. You made a choice to share your intimacy with someone else, to betray the vows we made to each other." She winced at my words, the truth cutting deeper than I intended. It was a mistake in the sense that it spiraled out of control, not that it didn't mean anything. I was feeling so alone, and Jake just, he made me feel seen again. She paused, her eyes searching mine. "But I realize now that I was wrong. I want to come back to you, to be the wife you deserve." My heart waged war against my mind. Part of me wanted to embrace her, to believe that we could turn the page and start anew. But another part screamed that forgiveness was a fragile thing, easily broken and nearly impossible to rebuild. "Jenna, I don't know if I can just forget everything," I confessed. "I don't know if I can trust you again. Trust once broken is hard to repair. I need time to figure out what I want." She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I understand. Just know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm in therapy to work on my issues, and I want to rebuild what we had. I miss you so much, and I miss our family. Please, just give me a chance to prove I can change." The emotional toll of the conversation drained me. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but I also felt the weight of uncertainty bearing down on me. What would it take for me to believe her again? How could I open my heart to someone who had caused so much pain? "I can't promise anything right now, Jenna," I replied, my voice heavy. "But if you're genuinely committed to making things right, then let's take small steps. I need to see that you're serious about this. I need to see change, not just hear words." She wiped her tears and nodded vigorously. "I will, I promise. I'll show you that I'm committed to fixing this." As we parted ways, a glimmer of hope flickered in my heart, but it felt fragile, like a candle flickering in the wind. I wanted to believe that we could rebuild, but I also knew that it would take time, patience, and a lot of work. In the days that followed, I began to notice small changes in Jenna's behavior. She was more attentive, genuinely trying to reconnect with me. She would initiate conversations about our kids and ask how my day was, something that had become rare in recent months. We started to communicate more openly about our feelings and needs, and I could see she was putting in the effort to demonstrate her commitment. But the road to rebuilding trust was fraught with challenges. There were moments when I felt overwhelmed with anger and sadness, and I had to remind myself to stay grounded. I sought advice from friends and family, and I even considered couples therapy, believing it might provide a safe space for us to unpack our issues together. One evening, after the kids had gone to bed, we sat down together in the living room. Jenna looked more vulnerable than ever, and I could see the weariness etched on her face. "I want to apologize again," she said, her voice trembling. "I've been reflecting on everything, and I realize how selfish I was. I never should have put myself above our family." It was a stark contrast to the way she had reacted during our previous confrontations. This time, I felt a flicker of hope. "I appreciate that you're taking responsibility," I said slowly. "But the damage is done. I need to see that you're willing to fight for us every single day." "I will, Mark. I swear I will," she replied earnestly. "I've started writing down my feelings instead of hiding behind distractions. I'm committed to being a better partner." It was a start, but I knew it wouldn't be easy. The path ahead was rocky, and there would be days when doubt would creep in, but I decided to give it a chance for my kids, for the family we built, and for the love that once filled our home. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt a mix of hope and apprehension. Could we really rebuild what we had lost? Was it possible to forgive and move forward? As I drifted off to sleep, I reminded myself that healing takes time, and sometimes it requires a leap of faith. I was ready to take that leap, but I wasn't going to do it blindly. I needed to stay vigilant to protect my heart and my children, but I also wanted to believe in the possibility of redemption. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but perhaps it was a journey worth taking. The weeks turned into months, and as we navigated this new phase of our relationship, I tried to remain optimistic while keeping my guard up. Jenna was indeed putting in the effort. I could see it in the little things. She was more engaged with the kids, planning family outings, and even initiating date nights, something we hadn't done in ages. I started to feel a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild what had been so brutally shattered. But there were days when the doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. I would catch myself replaying scenes from the past, the hurt bubbling back to the surface, and I had to remind myself to breathe through it. Trust doesn't heal overnight. It requires time and consistency. I leaned on my friends and family for support, and I even attended a few therapy sessions alone to sort through my emotions. I wanted to be the best partner I could be, not just for Jenna, but for myself and our kids. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, Jenna and I sat on the couch, the soft glow of the lamp casting shadows around the room. It felt oddly comfortable, yet there was an underlying tension as we both knew we were still in the early stages of rebuilding our relationship. "Mark," she said softly, her voice breaking the silence, "I know we've made progress, but I want to have a serious conversation about our future. I turned to her, my heart racing. What do you mean? I want us to make sure we're on the same page. I've been thinking about the next steps and how to strengthen our bond. I don't want to just get back to normal. I want to build something better, she explained, her eyes earnest. What do you have in mind? I asked, trying to suppress my skepticism. I'd like us to attend couples therapy together. I believe it can help us communicate better and work through our issues. I want to understand your perspective and share mine in a safe space. I was taken aback but pleasantly surprised. You're being proactive. That's a step in the right direction. I know it won't be easy, she continued, but I want us to learn how to communicate effectively and to understand each other's needs better, and I want to help you heal from the pain I've caused. We spent the next few weeks mapping out our plans to attend therapy. It felt like we were laying down the foundation for something new, something stronger. During our sessions, we did a lot of heavy lifting emotionally. There were times when I felt overwhelmed by the rawness of our discussions, and there were moments when Jenna broke down, revealing her vulnerabilities and insecurities. In those sessions, I learned to voice my concerns without resorting to blame, while she learned to listen openly instead of getting defensive. We began to dismantle the walls that had built up between us, brick by brick. It was exhausting, but it was also incredibly rewarding. One afternoon, while I was sitting in the backyard watching the kids play, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I took a moment to appreciate the small moments, the laughter of my children, the warm sun on my face, and the fact that Jenna was actively working to be a part of our family again. It was a reminder of what we were fighting for. As the therapy sessions continued, Jenna and I grew closer. We started having deeper conversations about our dreams, fears, and aspirations. I could see the effort she was making to show me that she was committed to our family and to being a better partner. The work wasn't just about mending our relationship. It was about rediscovering who we were as individuals and as a couple. One evening, after a particularly enlightening therapy session, we sat in the living room, the atmosphere filled with a sense of hope and possibility. I feel like we're making real progress, Jenna said, a smile breaking through her usual seriousness. I mean, it's not easy, but it feels like we're finally getting somewhere. I nodded, my heart swelling with emotion. I agree, but it's still going to take time. We can't rush this. Trust is fragile and we have to be patient with each other. I'm willing to put in the work, Mark. I don't want to lose you, she said earnestly. I don't want to lose you either, I replied, feeling a sense of connection rekindle between us. In the months that followed, I started to embrace the idea that healing was possible. Each small victory felt monumental, whether it was sharing a laugh or openly communicating our feelings without fear. It slowly built a bridge over the chasm that had formed between us. There were still moments of doubt, of lingering insecurities, but I recognized them for what they were, reminders of the past that didn't have to dictate our future. I began to trust Jenna again, not blindly but with caution and hope. As summer approached, I found myself reflecting on how far we had come. I was reminded that relationships require constant work, understanding, and forgiveness. I had learned that love is not just a feeling, it's a choice we make every day. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset with our kids playing in the yard, I turned to Jenna. You know, I'm proud of us. We've come a long way. She smiled, her eyes shining. We have, and I'm grateful for the second chance. I won't take it for granted again. In that moment, I realized that while the scars of betrayal would always be a part of our story, they wouldn't define it. We had the power to rewrite our narrative, to build a stronger foundation based on trust and love. As I looked at my family, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We were moving forward together, and I was ready to embrace the journey ahead, one step at a time.